Out of here. My brother just passed away, ho. He deserved way more than what Gucci put in. He was talking about some flowers and 10K. He ain't paid for no funeral. He put towards the...
This isn't just rap beef. This isn't just labeled drama. And this definitely isn't just another headline that'll disappear in a week. What you're about to hear is the kind of story that exposes how power, loyalty, and disrespect collide behind the scenes of the music industry. Gucci Mane and Pooh Shiesty were supposed to be a success story. A boss and his biggest artist. A label that looked unstoppable. Instead, this relationship ended in betrayal, humiliation, and allegations so serious they shook the streets. For years, fans believed Gucci Mane was playing chess, signing Memphis artists, outmaneuvering Yo Gotti, building a roster that would dominate the South. And for a while, it worked. Pooh Shiesty was on fire. Big Scarr was rising fast. 1017 looked untouchable. But one death changed everything. And what Gucci Mane did next may have cost him far more than a contract. When Big Scarr passed away, the industry watched closely. Funerals reveal character. Grief exposes priorities. And according to those closest to the situation, Gucci failed. The one test that truly mattered. That moment didn't just fracture a relationship. It created a line that could never be uncrossed. It followed with silence, then distance, then whispers, then a robbery so bold it felt straight out of a night playbook. Jewelry gone, a wedding ring missing, a message sent louder than any diss record ever could. Was this calculated payback? Was it street justice? Or was it the inevitable collapse of a business relationship built on ego instead of loyalty? By the end of this video, you'll understand why Pooh Shiesty walked away from millions, why Gucci Mane lost control of his biggest artist, and why this story isn't really about money at all. It's about respect. And in the streets, respect is everything. The situation around Gucci Mane, Pooh Shiesty, Big Scarr, and the wider Memphis and Atlanta tension is one of those stories that shows how personal emotions, business decisions, and street politics all collide in hip-hop. When people hear about rap beef, they often think it is just diss tracks or social media talk. But this case goes much deeper. It starts with ego, pride, and betrayal, then moves into money, loyalty, grief, and finally, fear. To really understand what happened, you have to slow it down and look at each layer, because none of these events exist on their own. They are all connected, feeding into each other over time. Gucci Mane has always been known as a strategic thinker when it comes to music business. For years, he built his reputation not just as an artist, but as a label boss who could spot talent early and turn street rappers into stars. When his long-standing issues with Yo Gotti intensified, Gucci did what he always does. He moved strategically. Instead of just talking, signing artists from Memphis was not only a musical decision, it was a power move. It was a way to step into Yo Gotti's territory and prove that he could dominate the same market. Pooh Shiesty and Big Scarr were not random signings. They were symbols. They represented youth, hunger, and momentum. And for a while, that plan worked perfectly. Pooh Shiesty quickly became one of the hottest new voices in hip-hop. His sound was raw, aggressive, and authentic, and fans connected with it immediately. Big Scarr, though slightly less mainstream, was deeply respected and seen as a rising force with real potential. Together, they made Gucci's label feel alive. Again, for the public, it looked like a successful business partnership. But behind the scenes, relationships were more fragile than they appeared. Street culture values loyalty above everything else, and once that loyalty is questioned, no amount of money can fully repair it. Everything shifted when Pooh Shiesty went to jail. Incarceration changes people, especially when it happens at the peak of their career. Suddenly, control is gone. Decisions are made by others. Information comes slowly and often distorted. While Pooh was locked up, Big Scarr passed away, and that loss became the emotional center of the entire conflict. Big Scarr was not just a label mate. He was family, cousins, childhood connections, shared pain, shared memories. When someone like that dies, the expectations for how leaders respond are extremely high. From the perspective of Pooh Shiesty and Big Scarr's family, Gucci Mane was not just a businessman. He was the head of the label, the man with resources, influence, and money. In moments of tragedy, people expect more than statements and gestures. They expect presence, sacrifice, and respect. When accusations began to surface that Gucci did not fully handle the funeral arrangements or that he asked for chains back, it cut deeply. Even if contracts and receipts exist, grief does not operate on logic. Grief operates on emotion, and emotionally, it looked like disrespect. This is where the situation stopped being about music and became about morality. In the streets, asking for jewelry back after someone dies is seen as cold, regardless of paperwork. Chains are not just assets. They are symbols of achievement, struggle, and pride. When family members spoke out, it shifted public opinion. Fans began to question Gucci's loyalty, and more importantly, Pooh Shiesty began to question whether staying under that label aligned with his values. When Pooh Shiesty came home, people expected celebration, a first day out song, a clear show of unity with his label. Instead, what people noticed was silence. No praise for Gucci. No public gratitude. Instead, subtle alignment with Yo Gotti and CMG. In hip-hop, these small details matter. Who you shout out tells the world where your loyalty lies. Fans started connecting dots that had not been obvious before. It looked less like coincidence, and more like a quiet shift of allegiance. At this point, business interests clashed directly with personal feelings. Pooh Shiesty wanted off the label. From his perspective, staying meant betraying his family and accepting treatment he felt was wrong. From Gucci's perspective, letting Pooh go meant losing his biggest artist at the peak of success. There was also the added insult of that artist potentially signing with Yo Gotti, the very person Gucci had been trying to compete against for years. Ego, pride, and money all collided in one moment. This is where fear enters the story. Not fear in the sense of weakness, but fear of losing control. When someone feels trapped, especially after prison, desperation can set in. Rumors began circulating about pressure tactics, about intimidation, about situations designed to force signatures rather than negotiate them. Whether every detail is true or exaggerated, the atmosphere alone was enough to make the situation volatile. Comparisons to old-school industry intimidation tactics started surfacing. And once those comparisons are made, the narrative takes on a life of its own. The alleged robbery of Gucci Mane became the moment where everything escalated, from tension to outright danger. In hip-hop history, robbery is not just theft, it is humiliation. It sends a message. The idea that Gucci could be touched, that his wedding ring and watch could be taken, symbolized a loss of power. Even allegations alone can damage reputations because they suggest vulnerability. Whether directly connected to Pooh Shiesty or not, the timing made it impossible for people not to link the events. What makes this story even darker is the wider context of ongoing investigations and past violence in the rap world. Recent history has shown that when business disputes turn into street conflicts, the consequences are permanent. Careers end. Lives are lost. Prison sentences stretch for decades. Fans watching from the outside might see entertainment, but those inside the situation understand how quickly things can spiral. That is why so many voices began urging caution, warning that another war could destroy everything involved. Gucci Mane's age and legacy also play a role here. He is no longer a young rapper trying to prove himself. He is a veteran with a family, a brand, and a long career behind him. Situations like this test whether experience leads to wisdom or whether old habits resurface under pressure. Being robbed, if true, is not just about material loss. It is about realizing that the game has changed and that younger players operate by different rules. For Pooh Shiesty, the situation represents a crossroads. Aligning with CMG offers opportunity, money, and protection, but it also places him closer to ongoing scrutiny. The industry watches closely when artists switch sides in heated rivalries. Every move is analyzed, every lyric dissected. Loyalty to family is respected, but involvement in escalating conflicts is dangerous. The balance between standing on principle and avoiding self-destruction is extremely thin. When you step back and analyze the entire situation, it becomes clear that this was never just about a contract. It was about respect, grief, pride, and control. Interviews, leaked conversations, and public commentary all added fuel to the fire, turning private disputes into public spectacle. Once the audience becomes involved, pressure increases and decisions become harder to reverse. Egos get locked in, and walking away starts to feel like losing. This story also exposes a harsh truth about the music industry. Artists often believe labels are families, but when tragedy hits, business realities can override emotional bonds. That realization can be painful, especially for artists coming from tight-knit communities where loyalty is everything. When expectations clash with reality, resentment grows, and resentment, if unchecked, leads to conflict. In the end, no one truly wins in situations like this. Even if contracts are signed and money changes hands, the damage to trust is permanent. Fans lose faith. Artists carry trauma. Legacies get stained. What started as a strategic move to outplay a rival turns into a cautionary tale about how quickly power games can turn personal. The industry has seen this story before, and it almost always ends the same way. Unless someone chooses to step back, this is why interviews matter so much in shaping perception. Every statement given, every clip shared, adds another layer to the narrative. Sometimes artists speak to defend themselves, sometimes to vent, and sometimes to control the story. But once words are out, they cannot be taken back. Fans interpret tone, body language, and silence just as much as they analyze lyrics. In this case, interviews did not calm the situation. They intensified it, reinforcing the idea that wounds were still open. At its core, this entire conflict is a reminder that hip-hop is still deeply connected to real-life consequences. Behind the fame and money are human beings dealing with loss, anger, and fear. When those emotions mix with power and street influence, the results can be explosive. The smartest move is often the quietest one, but in an industry built on visibility, silence is hard to maintain. As this situation continues to be discussed, one thing is clear: the decisions made here will echo for years. Careers will be defined by how this conflict is remembered. Whether people see Gucci Mane as a cold businessman or a misunderstood leader, whether Pooh Shiesty is seen as loyal to family or reckless in his alliances, all depends on how the next chapters unfold. History in hip-hop is unforgiving, and narratives, once set, are hard to change. Now before you leave, let me know what you think about this entire situation. Do you believe this was all about business? Or did personal emotions push it too far? Do you think loyalty to family should outweigh contracts? Or is this just how the industry works? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Make sure you like the video if you found this breakdown valuable. And subscribe to the channel for more deep dives into the stories shaping hip-hop right now.